Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. Here we go. Everything is fine. That was very quick. Apologies that I posted the live stream a little bit later on today. Just a late change after a couple of videos that I posted earlier on. I was planning on posting 2 videos, but I decided instead to post a live stream for you. So if you haven't watched my 2 previous videos, you can go ahead and watch them after this live stream. The 2 previous videos, they're very important. One of them is about this coordinated attack that we had in the last 24 hours from Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq, Bahrain, Saraya al-Ashtar, attacking Eilat or al-Rashrash. Unprecedented, but the Bahraini authorities claim that the attack wasn't from within Bahraini territories, which is likely, to be fair, because you're talking about Iranian-linked movements, clearly supported by Iran. They might have some freedom of movement in potentially Iraq or Yemen, really. And good evening to everyone joining now, and salam to all. So that was quite interesting. The most interesting thing in that video that I posted, and again, if you haven't watched it, you can watch it after this, is the fact that Ansarullah are saying now that they're in the beginning of the 4th stage, stage 4 of the attacks, and they're expanding it not only to every ship that's going to Israel, but any ship linked to Israel altogether, even if the last place, if the location or if the departure from somewhere else, they're going to attack them, and anywhere, expanding, which is interesting. The second video that I posted was about the closer link between Egypt and Turkey. I previously stated that obviously Egypt and Turkey will not participate in a war unless they are directly under attack, unless their sovereign lands, their national security is under attack and under threat. Then they can only participate. But unfortunately, the harsh reality is, for the sake of the people of God, very few people participated, and we all know who they are. We all know who they are. What I want to talk to you about in this video, 2 things, like this title states. Number 1, is there an understanding between Hamas and the United States of America? That's number 1. Number 2, will Saudi Arabia ditch Israel? Now, from the reports that we're seeing, a couple of places, The Guardian posted something, other websites posted a couple of stuff. It looks like they're pushing for a deal with the United States that would exclude Israel. I'll start off with Hamas. Now, before I start off with Hamas and before I talk to you about them, about this particular potential understanding, right? Because at the end of the day, they talk, these people. It's not like they don't talk. They talk with the Americans. They talk indirectly with the Israelis too. What? Their office in Qatar is an American blessing. They wouldn't have been in this position if it wasn't for their perseverance and success with their armed resistance in Gaza. That's very important for everyone to know that. What's leading us to this moment is Hamas primarily, and the brave Palestinian people. They started it with Al-Aqsa flood. Israel continued with the genocide, put itself in such a bad position, committing atrocities, barbaric, hideous crimes against humanity. And Hamas are surviving. 6 months, country supported by Israel can't do anything to the Palestinian resistance, getting beaten, getting humiliated in Gaza, sinking in the sands of Gaza, Hamas defeating the Israeli army and the Palestinian resistance. That's what brought us here. And listen and take this from me. In a few years' time, the people who used to say Hamas was this and Hamas was that and Hamas was bad, they will change their tone. Like they changed their tone with Nelson Mandela, like they changed their tone with previous leaders who they labeled as terrorists, then they became, Nobel Prize winners. Hamas will be written down in history as the liberating movement of Palestine. Remember that. Take that from me. Even though it might be obvious to many of you. Anyway, but I'm just saying that. Because why would the US talk to them? Why would they have an understanding with? Why would they negotiate with you? They were saying, eliminate you, eliminate them, eliminate them. They gave them 45 days initially. Eliminate them. We'll genocide, kill everyone. Eliminate them. You have 45 days. Then they started like, we're concerned about the civilians. All of that is down to the strength of Hamas. Primarily, strength of Hamas, strength of the Palestinian people in Gaza. What is this understanding with the US? Firstly, I listened to a Hamas official in Lebanon a couple of days ago. He had an interview with Al-Manar. Al-Manar is the television of Hezbollah. He had an interview with them in length, and I described the highlights of that interview in a previous video. If you want, you can go ahead and watch it. Yesterday, the day before, sorry, it was published, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry, I'm confused a little bit with the number of videos. It's 2, 3, 4, 5 videos a day, you get confused. But anyway, the last couple of days. His name is Sam Hamdan. One thing struck me, not so much struck, but I observed it. He was asked about the pier. He was asked about the floating pier. He said the pier will be managed by the United States, saying that Israel has no link to it, and insinuating that they don't have a problem with it. Okay, that's why it's still going ahead. Is Hamas okay with the US then? Question. All right. So long as it's the pier, so long as it's only for humanitarian purposes, no boots on ground, no US forces, okay. Probably had some sort of confirmations. Now, what elaborated further is Lloyd Austin, right? Austin say. Lloyd Austin, the defense secretary, he said that he had a press conference. He was asked about if Hamas would attack this pier, because they're building it. They're building it off the coast of Gaza. He was asked if Hamas is going to attack it. He said, I don't see any indications currently that there is an active intent to do that. I don't see any indications currently that there is an active intent to do that. He elaborated afterwards, saying that our allies are also providing security in that area as well, and it's going to require us to continue to coordinate with them very closely to ensure that if anything happens, our troops are protected. Okay. Again, interesting. Well, the pier, a mortar fell not long ago. Was it a sign? I don't know. Was there something going on in the negotiations? And there was some sort of an understanding. And then Hamas or the Palestinian resistance signaled, oh, look, be careful. We're here. But they're okaying it? Maybe, but it looks like there's some sort of an understanding, right? It reminded me of the period post the temporary ceasefire after 45 days of this barbaric genocide, when Hamas changed the tone slightly with the US, as if there was some sort of understanding going on there. Don't get me wrong here. No, don't start building theories as if the U.S. is flipping sides or what have you. No. As a matter of fact, the U.S. administration and every country supporting Israel from outside of Israel, they're worse than Israel. They're the genocide cartel. They're the great grandfather and mother of terrorism. They are the terrorism, you know, people who killed millions across the world. That's terrorism for you. Israel, they're doing just peanuts. 34,500 people in Gaza. That's nothing comparison to the US or France or Britain or nothing. Killed millions, these people. But there's some sort of understanding, at least when it comes to the pier. Second thing that I want to talk to you about, and then obviously I'll check if you have, I'll reach your comments. Excuse me if I haven't mentioned anything, but I can reach them after I finish this, check if you have any questions. And again, sorry for the very short notice tonight. I just decided last second to do 2 videos in one live stream instead of 2 other videos. Saudi Arabia, okay. Everyone's talking about the deal, and you know, Trump, when he was there, he was talking about the deal of the century, and he was doing the Abraham Accords, as if these Zionists relate to Abraham in any way, shape, or form. As if Zionism is related to Abraham. Astaghfirullah. But he called them the Abraham Accords, right, on top of the Palestinians. And then you had these people trying to legitimize it, right? These people who call themselves intellectuals and leaders of the Judeo-Christian world, and these come up with these Zionist terms and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Zionism comes up with these terms: anti-Semitism, Zionism, Judeo-Christian, or anything to do anti-Islam stuff. Yeah, we're talking about the deal of the century, and now apparently Israel's being offered a very heavy, nice deal with Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia, you know, they're talking, you know, we're willing to, if there's a Palestinian state. I don't know what type of Palestinian state they're talking about. The type that the Palestinian president leads, a municipality. What Palestinian state? A Palestinian state that kills its own people? Have you heard of the Palestinian Authority, excuse me, before I continue, killing some of the resistance fighters in the West Bank? They killed a resistance fighter that Israel's been looking after for a long time. Who killed him? The Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. The forces of Mahmoud Abbas, Abu Mazen. And they're telling you why you guys don't do it, because you have people who are doormats and sellouts and slaves to Zionists, and you have people who are liberated and free. How can you unite the two? Simple. But Saudi Arabia, apparently they're pushing to get a deal with the US and have a defense pact with the US without including Israel. It was reported in The Guardian, a couple of other newspapers as well. But apparently, this deal, in short, I can elaborate further if you want to, says that, firstly, it's 95% sorted. So, 95 of the deal between the US and Saudi Arabia that initially included Israel and was connected with the Palestinian case is now only between the US and Saudi Arabia. Okay. 95% of it is done without Israel. Now, Saudi Arabia are telling the US, let's push for it without Israel. Without Israel. I briefly highlighted a couple of words, really. I won't take too much of your time, because some of the articles were quite long. But I'll read what I highlighted for you. The United States, Saudi Arabia formulated a set of agreements on security and technology sharing intended to be linked to a broader Middle East settlement involving Israel and the Palestinians. However, due to ongoing violence in Gaza, due to the genocide in Gaza, and Israel's reluctance to advance the Palestinian statehood agenda, the Saudis have proposed an alternate plan that excludes Israel. Israel is well known not to want a Palestinian state, by the way. It's very clear, it's very evident, not just from Benjamin Netanyahu, but from Benny Gantz and the Israeli opposition. No one wants a Palestinian state. They call it a land of terror, a Hamas stan, a Fatah stan. We do, we need to have army superiority, security, control from the river to the sea. You see, from the river to the sea, it's allowed. As long as Zionists use it, it's fine, but not with the Palestinians. So the Zionists are allowed to tell you from the river to the sea, Zionists or Israel is what you'll see. That's not genocidal. It's not anti-Semitic. It's stupidity, as if these people relate to anything Semitic. Anyway, under this new plan, the US and Saudi Arabia would engage in bilateral agreements on a defense pact. American support for building a Saudi civil nuclear energy industry and advanced technology sharing in fields like artificial intelligence. An offer would be extended to Israel, suggesting a normalization of relations with Riyadh in return for Israel's acceptance of the two-state solution, but these agreements would proceed independently of Israel's consent. This is the thing here, that the agreements would proceed independently of Israel's consent. Israel is a colony of the US. However, the US sees from a policy perspective, from a foreign policy perspective, if you don't want to play ball, if you want to be so stubborn and we're giving you everything, then we're going to have to look at the bigger picture. And it isn't just you in the region, right? It isn't just, as a matter of fact, there's an argument amongst American patriots, really, people who really care about the United States, that says Israel is the biggest liability of the United States. What are these people talking about? The US is of no interest to Israel, and neither is Israel. It's like, it's the made-up Zionist control that promotes this Israel as some sort of a benefit to the... What has Israel been doing? Showing the United States as a genocide country, as the biggest genocide country in the world. What have they done to the US in terms of security? They harmed US security. They committed terror against the United States. They took down US ships. Participation in 9/11. They're happy, dancing. I loved it. And all of that is due to this Zionist lobby controlling so many European nations, European governments. The genocide cartel, they run the show. And you need to remember, by the way, there's way more Zionist Christians than Zionist Jews, by the way. Don't be fooled by this Jewish thing, by this. All a facade, it's all a front. It's a neo-colonialist project. It's a neo-colonialist project there to serve the empire. There to serve the empire. Really and truly, Israel is a liability to the US. What serves the US with a genocidal state being supported amongst Arab nations and Muslim nations in the middle of the Middle East? How the hell does that serve the US? Someone tell me. It doesn't. But they will sell you the lie that it does serve so that they continue supporting them. And now they have the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. Woo-hoo-hoo. You mean Zionist Protection Act. You mean 1984 Act. You mean Shut Your Mouth Act. Democracy is Dead Act. What are you talking about? So Saudi Arabia is still important to them. The Biden administration had originally hoped that these agreements would lead to a historic regional settlement, curtailing Chinese and Russian influence. He's very wary of that. Because China, don't forget, they brokered a deal, a historic deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran just over a year ago. that had nothing to do with the US. And by the way, from that time in Israel, they were saying rest in peace to any peace process between us and Saudi Arabia after they did this deal with Iran, brokered by China. Now, what do the Americans want to gain out of this? What does the US administration want to gain out of this? They want them to continue using the dollar when they trade the oil. They want a confirmation from Saudi Arabia, you would continue to trade oil in the dollar, not take any action to ditch the US dollar that's slowly dying, especially with the recent Chinese-Russian deal that they will only trade in their own currencies. With regards to the nuclear project, by the way, they said as long as it's converting refined uranium powder into gas, fine, but don't enrich uranium. Still, to Saudi Arabia, it could be the beginning point of a new. I mean, who knows? Some reports say that Saudi already purchased nuclear weapons, by the way. With the fall of the Soviet Union, many countries, it was in the black market, nuclear weapons. So who knows who has so many bombs? Plus, if they have very good relations with Pakistan, they could easily sell them a couple of nuclear warheads. Who knows? And with the collapse of the Soviet Union, nuclear technology was flooding the market. People were getting assassinated left, right, and center. South Africa. And many people suspect that Saudi Arabia bought nuclear warheads in South Africa. Deals were made in South Africa. And there were assassinations in South Africa where this trade happened. Some people would be butchered into pieces, by the way, because they had something to do with dealing a nuclear bomb. So Saudi Arabia could already have a nuclear bomb. Who knows? No one really knows. But now you're talking about officially, and obviously the US doesn't care about anything to do with human rights with Saudi Arabia. They'll tell you about human rights, and they'll ignore anything to do with human rights when it comes to them, number one, and their loved ones, or financially loved ones, like Israel and Saudi Arabia, as if they have a history of great, amazing. So apparently that's 95% concluded. Question is, will Saudi Arabia be pushing further to get it out of the way, or will something happen in Israel in the last second, completely ditch Rafah, or do a very limited strike on Rafah just to show the Israeli population that, look, we have, because they already strike Rafah now. And who do they kill? Babies. Child murdering state. That's what they are. The child murdering terrorist forces, they strike Rafah sometimes. And they kill children. That's what they kill. But Hamas, the PIJ, the Palestinian resistance, they're active. And that's what I want to talk to you about. Let me open the space up for you, see if you have any questions. And again, apologize that I posted the link quite late. It was just a last minute change. Instead of doing 2 videos, I decided to have a live stream. Firstly, Francis Fitzgerald, thank you so much for your kind and generous super thanks. I really appreciate that. Who do we have with us tonight? Muhammad, Zarida, Salam, everyone. James, Imdad, Zeus, Cheryl. Who else do we have? Altaf, Talal, Imdad, David. Welcome, all of you. The Church, Franny. Omar. Omar saying, Mahmoud, thank you. You do a very great work. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Altaf, may Al-Aqsa be free, and may we pray there soon. Very, very soon. Inshallah. Joseph Roy saying Austin and Blinken are part owners of West Exec Advisors and Pine Island who merged and they are in business with Israel. Look up West Exec Advisors and Blink. That's a common theme. That's a common theme with everyone. Plus, apart from the active, people who are active and then some things leak, don't people question the very, very top level positions that these people in power, these presidents and prime ministers and foreign ministers and what have you, get after they resign? What is that for? Because of their what? Professionalism? Deals? Bribery? That's that. Money, that's the thing. Money controls politics. And money should be removed from politics, whether it's from the military-industrial complex, the Zionist lobby, the pharma cartel, all of them. Money can't have influence. Money controls things. They'll buy the media, they'll buy the politicians, and then they'll buy their voters. They'll buy you. They'll buy a couple of, well, okay, not you, individually, sorry. But they'll buy people. You know what I mean? Many of you can't be fooled by them. But do you know what I mean? This is what they do. They buy the politicians. They buy the media. Fun. Millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. Some people in the US, there was this guy who reported that they offered him 20 million US dollars to run against Rashida Tlaib just because they wanted to take her down. 20 million. Talk about interference and undermining democracy. Your democracy is undermined. It's a bunch of facade. You haven't seen the face of democracy. What kind of democracy? Gullyberg Mahmoud, did you hear about the IOF soldier who had a meltdown in a commercial plane? I hope every IDF soldier has a meltdown. I hope every single one of them gets what they deserve. A meltdown or whatever it is, a crisis, you name it. Anyone who participated in this genocide, I hope they get what they deserve. I haven't seen that though, because I don't have the stomach to look at them sometimes, to be fair. I don't want to see them talking, don't want to see hideous, ugly, barbaric people. Unless they repent. If you repent and you go out against what you've done, sorry, I apologize, I repent, I was bad, be vocal, okay, fine. But participating and going and don't tell me you didn't know what you were doing. We know they brainwash them and they send them and they use them as cannon fodder. We know all of that. But I'm sorry, when you're a grown adult, there's right and wrong. And many of them go and do things with pride. With pride. They take pictures and video themselves abusing people and stealing women's underwear. Ugly. What kind of human beings are they? What humanity is this? Are they? What are they exactly? Morally depraved. Lack of morals. Well, what kind of people are you talking about? Kate, what was the outcome about hummus and PA? I love it when you say hummus. It makes me feel like hummus and falafel. Meeting with China. Why is Saudi so eager to sign a normalization with US-Israel, nuclear deal, or to fight a future war with Iran? Well, hummus and PA, Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, we still haven't had the outcome of that meeting in China in full detail, to be fair, unless I missed something, but I haven't seen any results of that meeting. Saudi so eager to sign normalization with the US and Israel. Saudi Arabia, they look at their interest, and that's it. They look at their interest. Saudi Arabia, to them, Saudi Arabia, the royal family. How can we be attractive to the world, attract more investments, take care of our country, and look out for ourselves? You need to keep that in mind. So as most other countries, to be fair. Hardly any countries take a risk based on moral grounds. like Iran. Who does that? Not many countries do that. Then they pay the price. So I just said that they might actually have a deal without Israel. That's the thing. And nuclear deal to fight a future war with Iran, not necessarily, because look, them in Iran, they have this stupid feud that's based on their, to a very large extent, distorted understanding of religion or implementation of it. You have Wahhabism here and Ithna Ashriya there. And really and truly, they should get over this religion or how they kind of control it for political purposes, because when you start using religion as a political tool, that's a toxic combination, a very toxic combination. And the people will end up suffering. Religion, by the way. And I know some people wouldn't like to hear that, but I say it as it is. If you use religion, rule in the name of it, as if you're somehow a divine entity representing the will of God, then you will do more harm than good. So they have this influence and they have their own interpretations of the religion. And it's pathetic. But there's also an influence of geopolitics. Look, Saudi Arabia wants to be the main hub, the biggest oil exporter. They're interested in Iran not having too much of a free hand exporting oil and competing with them and stuff like that. They claim that they're out there to attack them or whatever, what have you. And in Iran, indeed, previously they did have aggressive approaches when it comes to some of the surrounding countries, especially with the exportation of the revolution. However, Saudi Arabia did far worse things with their distorted understanding of religion and supporting this distorted vision of religion. I mean, it's described as Wahhabism today, but you can't just highlight it in Wahhabism. It's more than that, really. And it usually serves the ruling authority and the ruling government. It's problematic. That's problematic. But that's not necessarily to fight with Iran, because they just had a deal. They just had a deal a year before, which was a good deal, brokered by China. And it looks like they're coming closer together. But they still have this feud, like Egypt still has this tension with Iran. But if you look at it from a geopolitical, from a social perspective, even from an economic perspective, look at the economic union of Europe, for example. Europe is made up of so many different nations. They were at World War II, World War I. They were at war. European nations, some of them hate the living daylight out of each other. Yet they had this economic understanding and, for the benefit of the people. Arab and Muslim states should do the same and look at what joins them together, what's beneficial for their people, have more reform, both Saudi Arabia and Iran, and let their populations thrive. The problem is when you start getting more concerned about preserving your power, and power corrupts. So I don't think they're necessarily going there. I think they should have more of an understanding. I think both countries should have more reforms in them, Saudi Arabia and Iran. And support what's right, be on the right side. Like, for example, when it comes to Palestine, no Arab state did what Iran did. Iran took the most noble step, right? Putting themselves at danger. Sanction, they pay the price for it, but that's the right thing. But unfortunately, some Arab states, they complain about Iran and they don't do nothing. They just sit there. As a matter of fact, they support Israel. So, yeah, I don't think they're looking for a fight, because a nuclear fight would really end both of them. I mean, Saudi Arabia already felt the power of Iran through Yemen, really. Because they were fighting in Yemen. Weren't they fighting? It was Saudi Arabia versus Iran in Yemen. And that's why they got a deal. And therefore, the Saudis had a deal with Ansarullah, the Houthis, immediately after they had a deal with Iran. So I don't think they're looking to escalate anything. You know their weak points. And who's going to benefit from it? Israel is going to benefit, and the United States administration, the neo-colonialists. Someone in Humane Society USA is saying, Sinwar, you are the man. Look, Yahya Sinwar is proving that he is the man now. Israel is waiting for him to get back with the negotiations. They were telling him, you have two options. You either hand yourself in or you'll die. That was just a few months ago. Now they're waiting for Sinwar. And then before they started saying, oh, he's disconnected from the leadership abroad, he's disconnected from this, he's disconnected from that. And then all of a sudden he's running the show. Well, you confuse this, ladies and gentlemen. Is he running the show, or is he secluded? Tell us, enlighten us. Clearly he's running the show. The man is running the show. And they're forced to make a deal with him. As a matter of fact, senior Israeli people in the military establishment, top people in the military intelligence establishment, I quote many of them in my previous videos. One of them said, we have to have a deal that Sinwar dictates. We have no other option. He said that 4 months ago. Israel must agree to a deal that Yahya Sinwar dictates, because we have no other option. Israel, from the horse's mouth. Don't tell me it's you and that. No, nothing. Here we go. Said that, and you have many other examples. So he's proving that he's supported by his people. Where can you see a revolution? In Israel, against the Israeli government. Yahya Sinwar, they hug him, they love him in Gaza. He was roaming around Gaza freely the other day. Yahya Sinwar. What are we talking about? And welcome, of course, to everyone welcoming and sending everything. Yeah, I'll go to Imdad. Brother Mahmoud, what in the meantime of what is the meaning of a pier when there is thousands of trucks, when there are thousands of trucks on the board just waiting to get in, and a deal here or deal there, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the zoo keep bombing Gaza. Okay, a valid argument. Look, there is no point of a pier replacing the land route, because land routes are always better and you have more things. So, however, if it's something on top of the land route being open, welcome, good. But you're confusing us, ladies and gentlemen. You have thousands of trucks waiting, and you have a genocidal state. A genocidal state by international law, not by me. If you don't want to take it from me, or if you're ignorant, or if your English is that bad that you don't know the definition of genocide to a level where you make me feel like I want to put an egg on the word genocide in the dictionary and slap it across your face so you can understand, that's your problem, not mine. But the ICJ is saying that they're a genocidal state. What can I do? You don't want to believe that, your problem. They're committing a genocide. You have the address of this genocidal maniac state. And instead of taking your armies to that state, taking them down completely, removing this regime, and truly implementing human rights and democracy, like you always say, you go against Gaza and you allow them to blockade Gaza. What is that? They allow people in Israel to go and attack the aid trucks. I'm not sure if some of you've seen these images and videos. Israeli settlers, these rabid dogs, they go on these aid trucks. You offend the dog when you call them a dog. You need something more derogatory. You come up with a word, please. They go and they start tearing apart the flour that children need in Gaza. Children died and are dying of starvation in parts of Gaza. These I don't know what to call them. These Satanists, they go and they rip the wheat and flour and throw it on the floor. What is that? What kind of people are you talking about? And they're being enabled by countries that claim to be enlightened and democracies and protect human rights and da. You'll start crying when you hear how much they talk about human rights. But when it comes to actions, they'll support the genocidal state. Hubris matrix attack, lagging me from watching you. Check the internet connection. Report to YouTube. Matrix, here we come. I need to get these square glasses. Toro Tama, greetings Mahmoud. Do you see any possibility of the people overthrowing the Saudis with the help of surrounding countries? I don't see the potential of a threat on the government in Saudi Arabia, not for the sake of Palestine. I don't see that. It was very tense a few years back. There are power battles within the Saud family. It's very well known. You know, the way the crown prince is in his position, the way he changed things to do with traditional ways of getting the power in the royal family. They almost had a coup once. The US Marines had to interfere, by the way. I think it was in 2018. US forces had to intervene because a massive fight broke out in the royal family, and they were about to take MBS down. And just after Mother America intervened, they solved it. But I don't see that happening now. Not for Gaza. I don't see that happening. So they will only have things when it comes to some people in the royal family potentially finding the right opportunity and the right time to take down MBS, because some people still don't like him. And he imprisoned many people and many people were killed and stuff. KM is saying the purpose of the pier is to eventually aid Palestinians in leaving Gaza. I suspect that. I suspect everything the US and Israel does. Everything. Don't trust anything they do. Why should anyone trust anything they do? Now, do they have some sort of understanding with Hamas or something? I don't know. I'm sure as hell not trusting them. You want to bring aid. Oh, thank you so much. Bringing aid, and you're sending Israel 1-ton bombs that they land on children. Oh, wow. It's so kind of you. What do you want me to say? Thank you. Stop arming Israel. Force them to open the borders. Boycott them. Divest. Sanction. Take the government down. Show us your muscles with an actual genocidal state. I'm sorry, unless you were lying. Unless you were lying all the way, and that's the likely option. But you are a lying, big, hypocrite and a terrorist and a genocidal maniac yourself, who's committed far, far worse atrocities than Israel in your history. Blank Stares, thank you so much. And Abu Yusuf, thank you so much. And Omar Zagmout, thank you very much for your super thanks. And Amin Danya and Tiffany J. Kim. Let me just read your comments one by one. Thank you very much. So Blank Stare said, thank you for your constant work and sharing with us. We pray for Palestine. We stay confident Palestine will prevail by God's will, inshallah. Thank you so much, brother. Omar is saying, greetings from Chile. What do you think will be Trump's stand facing the present war against the genocidal state? Trump is a big hypocrite. Who cares about Trump? Trump is a businessman. He's a businessman who happens to be not exactly in the system as everyone else is. Most of them come from politics or from the military. He's kind of an outsider, but he's a mogul, you know, property, business, all of that. And he is a megalomaniac. And he's narcissistic. He cares about himself. You know, if I was there, it wouldn't happen. Da, da, da. If he was there, Ukraine wouldn't have happened. If he was there, Hamas wouldn't have attacked. If he was there, everything would have been great if he was there. Yeah. And he caused a lot of problems previously. He caused problems with moving the embassy to Jerusalem. Lots of friction for no reason, by the way. And people died back then. Then he came up with this deal of his. Deal that was serving the Zionists. When it comes to Trump, they're all just as bad. All just as bad. I mean, not all of them, but the big ones who have the likelihood of winning the election, they're just as bad. Amin is saying, I have people who say the Muslims aren't doing anything. Saudis and the Emiratis aren't the only Muslims, as if Yemen, Lebanon, Iraq, Syria aren't fighting. Don't you think that's kind of rude? Look, I think labeling based on religion and ethnicity is quite ignorant, to be fair, because you have people from all walks of life supporting and you have people from all walks of life ignoring, right? And likewise in the Muslim world, mind you, some of those in the Muslim and Arab world who will say that the Muslims aren't doing anything, probably don't consider Iran Muslims, right? And that's another problem. That's a sectarian problem. But I mean, when it comes to a political situation or a case of human rights, no matter how much religion can be involved in it, you look at people's actions. What? Jewish pro-Palestinians or everyone, all walks of life, supporting. So to me, someone who's vocal, whatever his background is, good, great. But if you look at it from a bigger perspective, like, oh, look at the Muslim countries, of course they're not doing what they should do. I mean, do you think if they had the capacity to threaten Israel, Israel would have done what it did, would have carried out a genocide? And again, that shouldn't really be the case with just Muslims here and Muslims there. That shouldn't be the case with any human being, any other human being suffering. It shouldn't be allowed against anyone. What if someone in Central Asia or Africa or any country really, Europe, America, if people are killed based on their identity, who wouldn't stand against that? You need to be a different type of thing to not stand up against something like that. It doesn't matter where it's coming from and who the people are. When there was a war in Vietnam, genocide in Vietnam, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, what, do we share the same faith or shape? Or everyone sympathized with them. My God, you're killing 250,000 people for what? Vietnam, millions for what? For financial greed? What the hell is wrong with you? What kind of people are you? So that's the same principle with Palestine now. And obviously the Zionist slaves, the Zionist-controlled media, the Zionist-controlled politicians, the Zio puppets, all of the weaklings, all of the imbeciles, all of the cowards will shut up because they're being petrified to death with this anti-stupidity, anti-Semitism facade. And what can I? Some people, you really can't do anything with them. You can speak for centuries and no one will listen. So the thing is a matter of universal human rights. That's how I see it. And the people who stand up for universal human rights, good. If they don't, then that's bad. And that same thing, you can see it in many different countries, by the way. And some of them are Arab states. You don't see like anything. And yeah, you can say a big part of it is due to the media, for example. Okay, fine. But what, is there no media control here in Britain, for example? Is there no media censoring and lies and spinning in the US? There is, but people are active. People act from within. So, yeah, but if they had the capacity and if they were doing what's right, we wouldn't have been here. If someone threatened Israel that they will be leveled, or parts of Israel will be leveled, like they leveled Gaza, then they wouldn't have gone ahead with this. If someone had the capacity in Israel, knew that they wouldn't have committed it. That's called deterrence. But there was no one to really deter Israel to the level that would prevent them from committing a genocide. And that's something bad. There should be deterrence to save lives. We want to end wars altogether, by the way. It's within human capability to solve matters diplomatically. It's within human capability. You have examples. But so long as some people run their countries by greed and make money out of other people's blood and misery, it's going to be difficult to achieve that. And the people who are being met with this approach of violence and people attacking them because they're making money out of their suffering and out of selling weapons to be used against them, they will have to defend themselves. And they're going to have to defend themselves very well. And they need to have things to deter their enemies, their cruel, barbaric enemies. They have to. Tiffany J. Kim, again, thank you so much for your super thanks. Saying, thank you for your constant updates. Oh, and thanks for calling out my country as the hypocritical, genocidal, satanic death cult as it is. Glad this is all coming out. Free Palestine. Thank you so much. Zubi Loco. Mahmoud, do you think the US is building the flow to land troops when needed? Could be. I don't trust anything the US administration does. Could be used for troops, could be used to commit an ethnic cleansing, could be used for so many things. I don't trust them. And John McGuire, thank you. And Chocolate Pudding, thank you so much. Chocolate pudding, thank you so much for your generous super thanks. I really appreciate it. You said people from the heart of Junier would like to thank our brothers for their dignified and moral stance. We need to all unite and show love towards each other to build a better country and region. We share a lot of common values and history. I totally agree with that. And that's the noble thing to do. You know, talk about that. Yeah. Love, humanity, unity, work towards building something better, bringing people together, and the fact that people share common values and views sometimes and history. But those in power, you won't hear this. Like if you were the prime minister of one of those countries, things would have been better hearing this type of statement rather than constantly division, lies, manipulation. You get tired. That's why I stopped listening to them, to be fair. I only listen when I have to, because sometimes what can you do? You have to listen to these people, to sit down and listen to them for an hour because I need to tell you what's happening. Otherwise, whoa, sitting there knowing that you're listening to a liar for an hour. Oh, gosh. I have to tolerate this manipulating liar, genocidal maniac for an hour or for half an hour. It's not easy. Sometimes you have to for your work. Kate is saying, why Iran hold back weeks ago? Do you think they didn't? The war will stop. I think Iran didn't hold back because Israel didn't officially retaliate against them. All we saw is Amazon quadcopters. I'm not sure if it was Amazon, Alibaba, or Temu. One of them. Quadcopters. So the person who launched them bought them from either Amazon or Alibaba or Etsy. I don't know. And they put a couple of fireworks on them and they sent them to Iran. And thank God for the Iranian people. Some of them videoed them so we can see them live. If you went to your local supermarket and they sell fireworks, you go ahead and buy one, buy a quadcopter, and then just launch it like that. It'll be bigger than what happened in Iran. That's how petrified Israel was. That's how petrified Israel. Iran created a new equation, and they didn't even admit. And all of the other countries are petrified too. You know, USO, you've got a victory. Biden told them, take it. Austin, oh, if you retaliate, tell me, as if I'm not going to attack. Then the British clown foreign minister came, and the German foreign minister clown went to Israel. Oh no, don't attack, you know, da 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 da. And then they carried out this stupidity. I mean, what is that? Is that Israel? Oh, retaliation. Couple of fireworks, poor things. You'll see far bigger fireworks on the 5th of November here, and whenever you celebrate something. Diwali, for any of you who celebrate Diwali, by the way, you'll see much greater fireworks than what happened in Iran. So they didn't, because Israel technically didn't retaliate. They didn't declare anything. Oh, reports that we attacked. You stupid fool. If you have the guts, say I retaliated. And they were ridiculed in Israel. Political leadership, people, oh my God, it's shameful. Why did we not respond? But that's the thing, the Israeli population, I mean, most of them are so brainwashed, it's a lost case scenario. They'll buy most things that the government sells them. Some are very much aware though, but the majority is a lost case. It'll go, they'll think, oh yeah, we retaliated or whatever. They'll do a U-turn, and then they'll think their government will do a U-turn. They'll think, oh, okay, yeah, fine. That's how Bibi Netanyahu gets away. I mean, can someone explain how Bibi Netanyahu can remain in power for 16 years? Look at the people sometimes. Who the hell is voting for you? What's happening? There's something wrong. Kyle Lynch, what does the future of Israel look like? Look, from my perspective, Israel ended on the 7th of October and we're just seeing the end of it. It can take a few more years, but it can't last with this recipe. Unless there's a completely new dish, it won't work. Because the recipe of Zionism is incompatible with humanity. Zionism is a racist, supremacist, violent, terrorist, genocidal ideology. It's incompatible with humanity. It's incompatible. It cannot run a state. It needs to be eliminated. So unless Israel completely gets rid of Zionism, which is very unlikely, then they're doomed. That's it. With the 21st century, to people talk about equality. Either you implement equality for everyone, regardless of their faith and religion and background, or you say, no, I'm violent, I'm supremacist, you're below me, and then face the consequences. So those who said what has been taken by force will not be redeemed unless by force, were probably right. There is another option, though. There was another option for the 7th of October not to happen, by the way. If they only followed my book, I gave them a manifesto. I gave you a manifesto. Implement it. One state solution, democracy for everyone between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Equal rights. Let people choose who they govern. Let the refugees go back. Easy. It's easy politically. Doesn't take up a lot of money. You know, you spent way more money on guns and weapons. If you spend 1% of that, you'll find a solution tomorrow. But they don't want it. Why? Because they're a violent, racist, supremacist, neo-colonial, genocidal ideology, an apartheid state. An apartheid state is not compatible with humanity. That's why it failed before. That's why it failed with Hitler. That's why it failed with South Africa. That's why it constantly fails. It's a recipe for disaster. And the more you're aggressive with it, the quicker your end will come. And this is what Israel is doing. A free fall. They're committing suicide in front of everyone. So again, unless some sort of magic happens, very dramatic shift happens, Israel, as we knew it and as we know it, is doomed. Bill Joseph, thank you so much for your super. Let's see what we have. Imdad is saying any news about Sunak, the unwanted child. Oh my god. I don't have time for him, to be fair. All he's talking about is Rwanda now, and then refugees sending them from the UK to Ireland, and then Ireland bringing them back to the UK. Clown of a prime minister. He's a joke. All of them are a joke. A very bad one. Enlightened believer, thank you for having this platform. I agree with you. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much for your comment. Okay. Let's see what else we have. Val Bowen is saying, good afternoon. Trinidad and Tobago declared recognized Palestine as a state yesterday. I still live here in Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah, more countries are recognizing. I mean, my only concern with the recognition is how far it will go in terms of implementing things on the ground, because many of them rely on some sort of coordination with Israel. Like, even if you had unilateral recognition in a Palestinian state, because think about the majority of the world does. And then everything is so mixed with Israel, obviously, trade, money, things, they control the borders. If they do something unilaterally, they killed Yasser Arafat because he wasn't up until the final ball with exactly what they want, right? They'll do the same with the current Palestinian president, Abu Mazen. So there needs to be some sort of coordination and pressure from the countries that are in charge of Israel, the Israeli backers, right? US, UK, EU countries. Otherwise, it will just be ink on paper. But saying that, obviously, anything to push for is obviously good. But again, the concern is how much of it will be implemented on the ground. Douglas Boone, is Turkey really stopping trade with Israel? Yeah, they're stopping trade with Israel. Mind you, they can reactivate it tomorrow. If Israel stops this and they reach a deal, they'll quickly go back Turkey, because their trade is hefty with Israel. But so far, it definitely happened to a level where, now the Israeli foreign minister is saying, it's illegal, what are you doing? You can't do that, They're not happy. You're not following the international law and pacts as if they follow anything. ABCD, what do you know about the resistance group Al-Ashtar in Bahrain? I think you asked. Yes. Well, clearly they're linked with Iran. They weren't really famous before. Most likely this act didn't come out of Bahrain. I don't think they have the infrastructure to support them. That would have been a massive shock if that was the case, because the Bahrain authorities denied any attack going from their territories. But I think it was like part of a sign to send to Israel and the US as well that, there are stages to the war and we can increase the pressure. So be careful. Talal Mansour is saying, do you think Hamas will fall into the trap of a ceasefire? It's not a trap, a ceasefire. I think that both sides want a ceasefire. The only thing is Israel doesn't want to leave humiliated, because Israel knows it would have to leave humiliated, it would have to submit, and it's frustrating them. Oh my God, Hamas, what are you doing? You humiliated us before and you want to humiliate us again. It's too hard to stomach. Hamas, please. This is what Israel's thinking. Like Hezbollah humiliated them in 2006. It's hard for them to stomach when someone beats them and humiliates them. They don't like it. That's why they take revenge with the population. They commit massacres and they take pride in it. And they show it to their people. Why? Because they have no other accomplishment. So they committed genocide. They bully the people. They rape the women. They slaughter babies. This is how they take their revenge. It shows you their mentality, their existence, their way of thinking. Because the resistance beat the living daylight out of them and humiliated their army and defeated them. So it's not a trap, a ceasefire. It's just that Israel doesn't want to be seen as a side who concedes and submits to Hamas, and they need a formula where they will get out of this without their heads being inside of a mud full of all sorts of bad stuff, to say the least. And they're doing that, by the way, with active things they're doing now, so that they're not deemed as part of a ceasefire. I spoke about this before, the semi-ceasefire. Aid to the north, people back to the north, releasing prisoners, releasing the most of the army, all of that. So that when it comes to the ceasefire, they will tell you, oh, look, we only gave Hamas a couple of prisoners. But we didn't do anything else. Why? Because you did them now, which is part of the agreement you have with them. And from Hamas's perspective, they don't care because the Palestinian people can get some sort of benefit. From Israel's perspective, it's detrimental because it wouldn't put them in a shameful position in front of their population, particularly the genocidal population. Like in Israel, you have people who want a bigger genocide. Some people want a ceasefire. Some people criticize the genocide. But some people want a bigger genocide. These are the people who support Netanyahu and Ben Gvir. Same people who openly say we should have killed 100,000 before. Let the kids drink from the sewers. They say that on live television, ladies and gentlemen. Kill everyone. Kill the babies. They're enemies. They're going to grow up to hate you. Kill the women. All of that is day-to-day stuff in Israeli media, and it's fine. Fine. And they're being protected by countries that call themselves democratic and beacons of human rights. Kate is saying, what will it take to stop Israel from bombing Syria at will? Look, they bomb Syria regularly. And they get away with it. Why? Why do they get away with it? Because they're defending themselves. Because they're defending themselves. They can attack in Syria, in Lebanon, in Iraq, in Iran, in Gaza, in the West Bank. They can commit a genocide because they're defending themselves. Do you not understand that? So they attack in Syria regularly whenever they feel like it because they're defending themselves. It's like, imagine France going to bomb Spain every weekend. Oh, I'm defending myself. Kill 20 people. It's fine, I'm defending myself. So no one can stop them. They can go and attack Syria any day, really. It would depend on the air defense systems that are activated in Syria. Obviously, any Russian air defense systems that are controlled as well. Ari Magoo saying, Salam Mahmoud, sorry if I missed it. Will Israel hold back? Not attack Rafah? If so, will ceasefire really hold for good? Look, clearly they're using this Rafah thing as a front and as a card now, not just against Hamas, but against Egypt and the United States. As if we still hold that card, because they have no other cards. What is your other card? Committing another genocide? What is your card? Rafah. Which is technically committing another genocide. That's their card. Trying to use it as a pressure point with Hamas and the negotiations, even though I said before, I'll say it again, nothing will put pressure on Hamas. Nothing. You can't pressure Hamas. You can't. They're undefeatable. They're unbeatable. The Palestinian people of Gaza, they're a different caliber of human beings, ladies and gentlemen. You can't put any pressure on them. The population refused to leave the north when it was heavily attacked with 1-ton bombs with children's bodies left, right, and center. How are you going to defeat this nation? They're full of faith and belief and morals and courage. How are you going to beat them? You can't beat them. And you can't intimidate them. And that boils Israel. That may make their blood boil. Oh my God, what am I going to do with them? What can I do? Can't do anything with them. So they're trying to use this Rafah thing. Rafah. You've been talking about Rafah for 5 months. Plus, what do you think is going to happen when you go to Rafah? Look, again, they can attack Rafah tomorrow, right? There's no guarantee, but they've been saying it so far. What are you going to do in Rafah? Firstly, number one, the first question is, are you capable of doing anything? Well, your actions in every other part of Gaza, small be it or big, north or south, east or west, you have failed. So how on earth are you going to convince me that you're going to succeed in Rafah? And oh boy, have they got things prepared for them in Rafah. Boy, oh boy, if they do invade Rafah. I'm telling you from now. Secondly, do you have enough troops? 3 months ago, you were begging for 3,500 people. You're trying to force the ultra-Orthodox to join the army. And they're spitting at you. They tell you, hell no, I'm not going to do that. Where are you going to go? Who do you want to come and fight for you? Your own people are running away from the army, running away constantly, by the way. That's censored as well. But you have leaks here and there. The other day, they reported that 30 people ran away from the army. 2,000 ran away in the beginning, including 2 commanders from a brigade. That's in the beginning. If your own army, if your own people are not willing to fight for you, who do you think will fight for you? Who do you think will fight for you? Die for Bibi Netanyahu. You know what? Die for Zionism. Who would die for Zionism? They lost faith in their own state now. That's it. People are saying Zionism is dead. Go Rafah. You'll be humiliated. They'll regret the day that they set foot in Rafah. Trust me. Kyle Lynch, is there any way the settlements can be taken out from the West Bank? Yeah. I mean, anything is possible, really, when it comes to these things. But it's a bit more complicated. However, it is possible to take settlements out, but it's an extremely complicated situation with the level of expansion. Israel has never treated the settlements as something temporary in the West Bank. Not now. Now it's just an expansion thing. They view their state as something temporary, but that's a different story. Many top Israeli figures talk about the curse of the 8th decade. Previous 2 kingdoms, 8th decade gone, they're heading there. Ehud Barak, Netanyahu, a couple of their religious leaders, they're worried. But eventually, the supremacy, the regime of apartheid will be dismantled. It's just a matter of time. And I know some people will say, oh, it's not looking like it. Look at Gaza. I know, but it will be dismantled. I'm telling you, it can't stay for much longer. Injustice cannot stay for much longer. Listen, Nir Barakat, who is a senior Israeli official, he said the other day, U.S. public opinion is an existential threat to the Israeli state. That's just the U.S. How is the U.S. public opinion now? Tell me. I'll tell you. They publicly support Hamas. That's the public opinion in the U.S. So they know they're done. They're just buying time, really. Tashikoma, what's the update on the ceasefire deal? Apparently, Hamas rejected the formula. That's going to be submitted pending potential amendments. Both sides haven't broken the tools yet. Hamas said if they do invade Rafah, done. As a matter of fact, they said we entered a stage of permanent clash with Israel, which is understandable. Blank stares, Mahmoud. Can we ever hope to see a viable military force in place in Palestine that will defend Palestinians from IOF attacking civilians? You have an army. It's called Hamas, the PIJ, Al-Qassam brigades. This is the army. Now, the armed resistance movements, that's the technical army. You have a traitor army in the West Bank. You can't call that an army. When we get rid of this cancer, cancer? No, cancer is too light on Israel. When we get rid of this, lost for words, really. I don't know what to call them anymore. You will have an army. I will defend, of course. Because if you have a political solution, then everything will go into an army. And hopefully we won't see any war afterwards. No one wants to see war. Do you think we like war? Everything is, all of this is avoidable if you had equality. Everything is avoidable. You wouldn't have had a thing. You wouldn't have had whatever happened now if there was equality. Israel could have even gotten away with its historical atrocities and crimes if they later on implemented equality, if they left the Palestinians to it, if they didn't. That's the problem. It's as if they're not meant to. Do you get it? B. Abed Mahmoud question has been asked, why is Israel, the resistance not attacking the parked vehicles outside of Gaza and Rafah? They did attack them. They did. Al-Qassam brigades, they attacked them. They launched a couple of missiles on them. But then again, they don't want to reveal everything. Do you understand? Let's see if we have anything else. Paul Brown, do you ever worry about your own safety? No, not at all. Worry about what? Alhamdulillah. Whatever Allah's written for us will happen. So no, not at all. And that would be the last question for tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. And sorry again that it was very late. I was planning to do 2 separate videos, but then I thought I'll be live with you anyway. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll hopefully be with you tomorrow. If you haven't watched my other 2 videos, go ahead and watch them. Thank you so much. And no, sorry for me getting high, Molly and everyone. I updated everything late. So apart from that, enjoy the rest of your evening and the weekend ahead. And I will see you soon in the next video. Take care.